Hi everyone, and welcome to our video on argumentative text. Make sure you have your video visa on the left side of your notebook, ready to use to reflect on the video once you're done writing your notes, and that you have your note taker on the right side. Make sure you're following along and using the video to accurately complete your notes. Make sure you pause the video to give you time to write and do it in your best handwriting, because if you can't read it, then you can't use it later. And rewatch the video at least once just to make sure that you didn't miss anything while you were pausing to write. So our note taker looks like this. We're going to focus on what is an argumentative text first, and then I'm going to go over the characteristics and the structure of those type of texts, and then I'm going to show you some techniques that authors might use to try to persuade you to agree with their argument. So with that, let's get started. First off, to define argumentative text, this is a text in which the author presents to an audience their position, which is usually for or against, or their idea on a topic. They can just present an idea and try to argue that their idea is a good one, or they can give you their position saying, I am for this or I am against this, and again, argue that position. The author tries to persuade the reader that their position is more logical and valid than others by providing evidence to justify it. Those techniques that we're going to talk about later is going to talk a little bit about how they try to provide that evidence to create a better argument. So let's look at the characteristics first. What makes an argumentative text an argumentative text? The first thing is that the author makes a claim. That means that they are asserting something. They're saying, this is how I think it should be. This is the position that I think is correct. This is the opinion that I think we should have. They make some sort of claim. They also write it for a specific audience. They are directing that claim to the audience that is appropriate. Depending on what their argument is, an author wouldn't write something about investing your money in the stock market and direct it towards a 5-year-old, because a 5-year-old would have no idea about the stock market, right? The same way that they might not write an argumentative text that talks about which Disney cartoon is the best and direct it at maybe an adult. They might. There's some adults that are big fans of Disney, but the writing would look different depending on who they're creating it for. They also use facts to support their argument. This is the part that I was talking about earlier, the evidence, right? In order to prove an argument, you need to have something to back it up, to show the reader why you're correct. They appeal to reason. That means, like I said, they try to make it seem like their argument is the most logical, is the one that makes the most sense, so that you get convinced. They develop, defend, and debate a topic. Like we said, each of these argumentative texts will have a chosen topic, and the author will defend their choice, will develop that idea, might debate it, and might give you both sides of it. It just depends on the purpose and their audience. And their writer connects their statements to lead to a logical conclusion. This connects to the appealing to reason, right? They want their argument to seem logical, to seem like it's the best choice. So how is it structured? This structure is for the majority of argumentative text and just text in general, but that doesn't mean that they absolutely have to follow this exact structure. This is just an example of what to look out for. Usually it'll start with an introduction. They'll present the topic. They might present their argument there. They'll have their claim and their facts. This is their evidence to back up their claim. They will have arguments and possibly counter arguments. That means kind of like the opposite, right? Proving like, I say this, but these people say that. And of course, the conclusion. That's where it wraps it up. It leaves you with a choice to make. It leaves you with a reflection to decide something about their argument. So let's talk about some of those persuasive techniques. These are the methods that the author uses to try to make their arguments sound more appealing, to make their arguments sound more convincing, and sound persuasive. To persuade means to convince. So these are the techniques that they might use to try to convince the reader that they're right. The first one is a comparison. This is where the author compares two things and gives reasons why one is better or worse. And I have a little example here of what a comparison is. I'm not showing you what a comparison looks like in text necessarily, but just so you get an idea of what we mean by comparison. We have this advertisement. We have delivery and we have DiGiorno. You can tell here that they're comparing several things. They're comparing the look of the pizza, right? You can see that the sizes are about the same. The toppings on the pizza are about the same. And then they're comparing the price underneath. What it shows here for delivery is more than double what DiGiorno costs, right? So they're trying to persuade you to argue that DiGiorno is better because the price is better. At the bottom, it even gives you like a little disclaimer of how they compared it, right? How they got these facts to show what they want them to show. The next one is causality. This might sound familiar. Cause, right? This uses cause and effect to support their position. I have this example here, right? A before and after. I lost 90 pounds with Slim Fast. This is saying that the Slim Fast is what caused all the weight loss. And this might persuade someone who's looking to do the same thing to say, hey, well, if she did it with Slim Fast, then so can I. And then they're going to want to buy this product, right? I think you're seeing here that this arguments, right, is something that is very much shown in advertisements. They're trying to persuade you. They're making a claim that their product does a certain thing, and sometimes that their product does it better than all the rest. The next one is parallelism. Think about math. Parallel lines run right next to each other. They're on the same track, right? But they don't cross. They're the same, almost like mirror images of each other, right? But they're never gonna touch. So this is the repetition of ideas that sound alike to emphasize a point. This is why when it's parallel, they're the same. They're the same, right? They sound alike. So this is an example of what parallelism sounds like. What you see is what you get. Notice that the phrase sounds very repetitive, right? What you. Being Jim's friend means being constantly alert. To know her is to love her. So notice how some of the phrase sounds very similar from one side of the phrase at the beginning to the other side of the phrase at the end. Another example here, the more of us who walk, the more of us survive. It's repeating the more of us to get that image, right, to emphasize that they need more people to do it. Next, we have an exaggeration. I think children are very familiar with what it is, what it means to exaggerate. That's an extreme stretch of the truth to make something sound way better or way worse than it actually is. Look at this right here, right? Showing that this serum is going to give you less wrinkles in only minutes. I guess if you count up a bunch of years in minutes, it would count in minutes. But even then, I don't think that this serum is that magical to make the face on the right look like the one on the left. But this is an extreme exaggeration. This borders on it being a lie, right? An exaggeration, another word for that is hyperbole. If you haven't seen the video on figurative language, hyperbole is, like it says here, an extreme exaggeration used to make a point. The next one is a contradiction. This is two statements that cannot be true at the same time. When you contradict, it means you're kind of saying the opposite of what you just said. No pets allowed. All pets must be on a leash. Well, they can't both be true. Either they're not allowed or they have to be on a leash. Which one is it? This one takes a lot of skill to use correctly in a text, but it also takes skill to find it. So when you're reading those argumentative texts, you need to look for those contradictions. Another one is a misleading statement. This is a lie that leads you to believe something untrue. For example, we have here an advertisement for a Whopper burger and then the actual one you get. You can see that it's all flattened. The ingredients don't look anywhere as nice as the advertisement, right? This is saying that they misled you to think that your Whopper would look like the one on the left when it actually looks like the one on the right. And then we have emotive words. Emotive should make you think of emotion. And these are words that are meant to evoke or cause an emotional response. I need you. Paired with this picture, that makes you want to go rescue that poor dog, right? These words are ones that appeal to your emotions, that make you feel something when you read it. An emotional response is a very effective way to convince someone of whatever it is you're trying to convince them of. And then we have rhetorical questions. These are questions that are meant to make you think, but not that require an actual answer. For example, we have here, if TV's so bad for you, why is there one in every hospital room? They don't actually want you to answer that and say, well, it's because, people have a right to entertainment when you're in there for so many hours. They're saying, hospital rooms are where you go to get better. So if they have TVs, they must not be bad for you. This is, like you can see at the bottom, the logo is for ABC, which is a television network. They want you to watch TV. So they're asking this question to make you think and say, oh, that's right. Maybe I should watch more TV. Maybe I should watch ABC, to be specific. So look for those questions that are meant to just to make you think, not to actually answer. All right, so your note taker should look like this. We went over what is an argumentative text. We talked about the characteristics and the possible structure, and then I gave you some techniques that an author might use to try to prove their argument or persuade you to think what they want you to think. Remember that you need to make sure your notes are completely accurate, that your visa is done so that you can reflect on the video, that you post your part A in Google Classroom, and the most important, be ready to discuss the video and apply the skill. Remember that when we talk about applying the skill, it means that you have to go beyond just identifying what's on your notes. It's good that you can point out a causality or parallelism or a rhetorical question, but in order to actually apply your knowledge, you have to think about why was that used? What was the effect of it? Did it enhance the argument? Or was it not used effectively? Why did the author choose to use a rhetorical question and not causality? So all of those questions, all of those thinking, that's what you have to do when you're applying this skill. It has to go beyond just what you have down on your paper. So hopefully, once you get your visa done and all of that, you'll be ready to do that and you'll be ready to go.